and sisters and daughters are being raped and groomed and tortured, and the police won't talk about it. I think that is much more conducive to community tension than actually telling the truth about it when it could have been stopped way back in 1990. And I don't know what you know about the British National Party and Nick Griffin, but Nick Griffin, who has some sins that I can't forgive him for, but Nick Griffin came out and actually said many years ago, I think in 2004, 2005, he told the truth about these Muslim grooming gangs. And the response to the British government was not to investigate and not to look out for these girls. All of these girls, by the way, were in care. They were vulnerable young girls, and they're not 16 and 18. These girls went from 7 to 13 years of age. And as I'm talking about it now, the police would be called to a hotel where 13 Muslim men were in a room with a naked 12-year-old girl under the table and a very irate father outside the front of the hotel, and the police would arrest the father. This is how bad it is. And I've rather gone off track, but the Muslim grooming thing, I think, is really the icing on the cake in terms of what they are politically from the politicians and from the police, the media, because they all colluded in covering it up. I was talking about Nick Griffin, and the Times journalist, when he broke the story in 2014, said the reason they had sat on this story for so many years was because they did not want to give any ammunition to the nasty fascist right-wing political organizations in Britain, which is absolutely disgusting. And I'm rambling on, but my point really is Britain is not yet lost. We're not far off being lost. Sweden's gone. Sweden is just a matter of 5 or 10 years. Britain can still maybe do something about this. But I don't think it will be resolved peacefully. I think probably we are going to be looking at a civil war scenario in the same way that Yugoslavia broke up in the 1990s and the civil war in Lebanon in the 1970s. I think this is the future of Europe, generally speaking, and I think when it happens, it will not be contained in the way that Yugoslavia was able to be contained. It's going to be cataclysmic, something that people cannot imagine really in living in modern democratic times, but it's coming. And I will finish simply by saying you all need to look at what's happening in Britain and Sweden and Europe, and you all need to make sure that you retain, because I know Obama is trying to clamp down on this, you retain your First Amendment rights, because unless we can talk about this, unless we can bring it out in the open, you in America will go the same way. You need to stand up and look at what we're doing and say this is never going to happen here. Thank you.
Again, that was Paul Weston, a British politician, speaking back in March at CPAC. Now, I've already played you Ray Odierno saying that ISIS was avoidable had we had a stay-behind force in Iraq as anticipated by George W. Bush. He also said, Ray Odierno, that the longest ISIS holds ground in Syria and Iraq, well, here's what he said.
Around the world. On the military side, because obviously that's your specialty, what should we be doing to defeat ISIS that we're not doing right now?
Well, again, I've been encouraged the fact that we've increased the number of people on the ground. I think we have to continue to do that. I would still like us to be a bit more engaged inside of Syria. We're starting to be, because you can't let them have a safe haven anywhere, which allows them. The problem, what's happening today is the longer we allow them to hold ground in Syria and Iraq, it allows them to grow in popularity. And it can be just perception. But what that's allowing now is allow it to spread. So now it's spreading to North Africa, now it's spreading to other areas around the world. And now you have people being influenced to do attacks. Whether that happened yesterday or not, I don't know yet. Nobody knows. But even here in the United States. So the popularity is growing. So we have to be a bit more aggressive in attack. So what I'd like to see is continue to put numbers on the ground that puts pressure on them, continue to try to build coalitions with other nations to put pressure on, and go after the money. You got to go after the money. Money drives everything.
How do you do that? What does that mean?
Well, I think what we could do is first, I've never seen us get together with an international consortium to restrict any money involved or seen to be involved with supporting ISIS. And I think we could do a much more stringent agreements with other people to go after this money. I think on the ground we need to take away, they control oil, they're selling oil, they're involved with selling water, they're extorting people. We can help by taking that money away. And what we learned when we took the violence down in Iraq and even in Afghanistan, when you take the money away, it becomes really hard for them to continue.
General Ray O'Dear.
And of course, President Obama now has 4,000 military personnel, although he does not call them boots on the ground. Really. We're talking about that too. And remember when Bill Clinton gave that speech and publicly said, well, because of the extraordinary work that we've done to disarm North Korea will dismantle its nuclear program, yada, blah, etc. I say this because Hillary says Donald Trump is unqualified to be president, too irresponsible to be president. Her husband sits up there and tells us that North Korea no longer will have nukes. Her commander-in-chief, well, when I come back more, I'm Larry Odom.